Hey, I'm Pep, and this is a 5-minute review of Cities Skylines. Now, they aren't paying me to do this review, but they did send me a copy of the game, so yeah. Now, if you've played the video game version of this, titled similarly, then you kind of have an idea of what's going on in this board game. You're trying to build a city up from nothing, and you have little problems along the way. Maybe traffic doesn't really work with the way the roads are set up. Maybe you have a little bit of a crime problem. Maybe there's a waste management problem. Either way, you're constantly building things to correct this, but a lot of the things you're building will cause other sort of problems. And this is a cooperative game. So much so that everyone plays with their hands face up. You can completely plan it out like the game is some sort of puzzle. That's why I have games like Blockus on display here, because City Skylines also has a bit of a puzzly feel, something like Tetris, where there's little pieces of different sizes and you're trying to optimally fit them into each of the districts. But there's even more optimization, because a lot of the cards will also have special abilities that will trigger, assuming that you already have other things that are either next to or just within the same area of your map. So this makes teamwork very essential. You really want to see what other people can do and plan ahead. And this is where my first problem with the game really comes up. Maybe even my only problem. And that's that it's cooperative, and very cooperative. And I don't really like cooperative games generally, but this one is on the higher end of needing to be cooperative. Now, admittedly, I haven't tried playing the game without agreeing to things and making plans with my teammates. I haven't really tried just going boom, 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 and hoping for the best. But I don't think the game would work that way. I think you need to find a balance between making the game take a similar time to what the box says, which I believe is 40 minutes to an hour and a half, something like that. Whereas all of our games, regardless of player count, have taken closer to 2 hours. And that's usually because we spend a lot of time trying to plan out exactly where things should go. And there is a bit of a random element because you will be drawing cards from one of the decks in order to keep filling your hand back up and give yourself new options. But a lot of times these options are similar enough in ways that you really do need to plan ahead. But that being said, the process of planning and fitting everything in like a puzzle is quite enjoyable. So I think as long as your group can find the right balance of how long to take on each turn, you'll probably be fine. The game also comes with a variety of modes, almost like a little tutorial that's supposed to get you into the game. First, it starts you off with just the basic concepts. Then it slowly adds one feature or another in order to make the game both more difficult in some cases and just more interesting in others. I do suggest, if you've played a lot of cooperative games and perhaps even played city building games like this before, to just jump to the final scenario, which is like the full game. When we played some of the earlier tutorials, not only did we automatically win with very little effort, but we broke past the maximum score that you can track. So if you're confident in yourself and you think you'll probably do the same, then yeah, jump up ahead. And once you're that far ahead, once you've got all the game's components in play, it's actually quite challenging and quite interesting. There's a lot of decisions to be made. There's a lot of variety and difficulty that you can add or subtract if needed. And overall, even though the game took a little longer than planned, we all had fun playing. One thing I think makes the game really interesting is that it's done over a number of rounds depending on the scenario you're playing. And those rounds end essentially whenever the players want them to. As long as you've built at least one building in each of the districts, you can choose during your turn to simply end the round. And this is really interesting. Because you have a finite number of rounds and you want to gain as many points as possible, and most of the points are gained during this like end of round scoring, it really makes it so you have to think about when is the most optimal time. Would it be better to leave a lot of space and go into the next round with some of the options that you have? Maybe even giving yourself a small detriment in points? Or would it be better to try to milk all the points you can out of the early round, running the risk that you might get to the point where you actually can't play anything and lose? You may just get to the point where you have to drive one of your utilities too far down or up and simply can't do it. Maybe there isn't enough space on the board for the buildings that you need to build. Managing these things can actually be a little bit difficult, especially if you get some unlucky draws. which is why planning ahead can be important, and which is why, in my opinion, the ability to end the round at your leisure is really cool. Overall, as long as you like cooperative games, and especially if you like the idea of building a city, then I think this is a game you would really enjoy, and I suggest taking a look. If you really don't like cooperative games, though, this probably isn't the kind of thing you would enjoy. Unless you enjoy puzzles, like literal puzzles, because you can also play this game solo, in which case it feels a lot like completing a puzzle that also has little mechanics along the way, where you may not be able to place certain pieces, or you might not have the resources required in order to do something, which is actually kind of neat on its own. Anyway, that's been my review of Cities Skylines. Thanks for watching, and I hope you see me again.